It all started with a sandwich.
This is Frank Serpico, Charlie.
Hello, Frank.
Hello, Charlie.
How about some cream chicken today?
Sounds good to me.
No, I think I'll have, how about a roast beef on roll?
Yeah, okay. You go through the line, I'll bring it over.
Brooklyn-born Kenneth McMillan got into feature film acting with Sidney Lumet's Serpico. McMillan was 41 in 1973, breaking into film only after years of paying his dues in New York theater. He had but 16 years of feature film and TV work due to his untimely death of liver disease in 1989 at the age of 56. But what a ride! He shared the frame with many of the great actors of his age in countless supporting roles which argue for one of the seminal character actor careers of the last 40 years. McMillan made an impression on me through his comedies and dramas in the 70s and 80s, playing a panoply of common men with a squat frame, thick neck, and Kings County accent.
What you guys got is a lot of bullshit, huh?
No.
Yeah.
Look, you and Dow, you're going to open up a sporting goods store.
What kind of bullshit is that?
But in 1984, McMillan went in an unorthodox direction, and he invented an indelible role for the ages.
The Duke will die before these eyes, and he'll know that it is I, then Vladimir Harkonnen, who encompasses his doom.
Kenneth McMillan is an elusive figure because there are so few of his words recorded which can speak for him. We know a simple through line. He attended the High School of the Performing Arts in Manhattan, but didn't get his first theater gig until the age of 30. Until that point, he had a working stiff job managing the floor at Gimbel's department store. But he always wanted to act, so he never looked back after joining a touring production of Sweet Bird of Youth. There were stops along the way in the taking of Pelham 123.
Get those goddamn photographers out of here!
And the Stepford Wives, for instance.
What are you talking about? I'm looking at, I can see it right now. Get it down here right away. Don't give me a hard time.
But he considered his first real assignment to be Jack Doyle on TV's Rhoda, which he stuck with for 24 episodes.
I'm looking for Jack Doyle.
What for?
Well, I'm looking for a job.
He's dead.
Henceforth, there are two motifs which start for him in the 1970s, being cast as a bad guy and being cast as a lawman. And those two categories aren't always siloed. Regarding the former, I was surprised to find him in the 1978 TV miniseries King, a 4-hour omnibus about Martin Luther King Jr. It takes some brass balls to play notorious segregationist Theophilus Eugene Bull Connor, yet here comes the native New Yorker acquitting himself believably as the hateful Alabaman demagogue.
Turn on the hose. Turn on! Turn on!
McMillan became better known to audiences through joining Milos Forman's Rep of Actors in 1981 for the director's adaptation of E.L. Doctorow's Ragtime, which is remembered as James Cagney's final screen appearance. McMillan would later return in Forman's Amadeus in 1984. Here, the actor plays another horrible racist, the fire chief Willie Conklin, who screws with Harold Rollins' character because he thinks he has to.
Who are you driving it for?
It's my automobile.
My God. Don't that beat all?
McMillan also makes life hell for Robert Hayes in 1985's Cat's Eye, the Stephen King adaptation. As a debauched gambler, McMillan goes after the man who poached his wife, torturing him with sick games on a rooftop.
What do you think? The North? Is more fun than human beings should be allowed to have, or what?
Casting directors also saw authority in the actor's mien, which is why he wore so many tin badges over the years. Something these police had in common was that they were often compromised men, not quite villains, but well into the gray. This was a region where McMillan did some of his finest work.
You know what we're going to pull in on this one? Panty sniffers, weenie flashers, guys who fall in love with their shoes, guys who belt their hard in number 43 bus. I think I'm going to lose any sleep over who took this broad out?
Tucked away in this array of strong characters is a performance in Joan Micklin Silver's Chilly Scenes of Winter, top-lined by John Hurd and Mary Beth Hurt. It's an indie film about a guy struggling after a breakup. McMillan plays Hurd's stepfather, Pete, a middle-aged guy who married a woman, played by the legendary Gloria Graham, with a host of psychological shortfalls which torture her and plague her children.
Another bathtub deal? Yeah. Oh, boy.
Oh, it's okay. She's asleep.
Yeah, she's always tired after one of those.
McMillan has a supporting role, but he adds a lot of humor and romantic energy, cutting through the fatalism of the larger personalities around him.
People should get what they want once in a while, huh? Yeah. I'll see you.
We're almost at the planet Geedy Prime, but first I want to stop quickly at Stuart Rosenberg's delightful drama, The Pope of Greenwich Village. Released within months of Dune in 1984, Mickey Rourke and Eric Roberts shoot holes through the screen with their searing roles of Charlie and Paulie, a Goomba of mice and men duo screwing up organized crime in New York City.
Think of myself, Charlie!
Nearly forgotten is Ken McMillan's locksmith Barney, a hard-luck Bronx character who's brought into a safe-cracking job which goes sideways.
Barney, what the fuck are you doing?
A couple of seconds?
No.
Yeah, they ain't gonna change the rap one way or the other.
No!
Charlie, I ain't leaving this joint with nothing to my kick after all this.
The size of Rourke and Roberts' performance is in stark relief to McMillan's quiet old pro, a man who knows how to keep a low profile.
Nora, don't fall apart on me now, huh?
How did you let this happen to you?
I let my whole life happen to me.
As with chilly scenes of winter, there's a soulful quality. I wonder what the actor's career might have been like had he gravitated towards these benign roles.
He who controls the spice controls the universe.
From this fertile soil comes Vladimir Harkonnen, the reprehensible floating fat man who sprang from the imagination of Frank Herbert. I wouldn't necessarily think the actor who played a costume designer and an Austrian aristocrat was the obvious choice for an obese space pederast. But that's why David Lynch gets paid the big dollars and why I'm making YouTube videos.
The drug was timed.
The Baron Harkonnen is a vile, venal, vicious villain, the worst aspects of mankind given corpulent form. To access the character, McMillan took the work he did as Connor, Conklin, and the other troglodytes he played and turned the volume up to ear-splitting levels.
I'm alive, huh? I'm alive!
The actor luxuriates in the gluttony and violence of a debauched conqueror. He chews all the scenery and nails all his line readings. But 3 hours in the makeup chair every morning might give you a leg up in the rage department. In this case, we actually have some first-hand notes on McMillan from the people who knew him best. The cast and crew, stranded in Mexico City for 18 months shooting this colossus. Visual effects director Kit West said, "Ken was wonderful. We met in Los Angeles before he went down to the set. We hung him quite a few times in his harness in Los Angeles while they were fitting him for his costume. He was marvelous. He concentrated on being evil and left moving himself about to us. He loved it all." And no less than Gordon Sumner, Sting, himself said at the time, "Ken McMillan is probably the best actor I've ever worked with. He's totally believable and professional. When floating down the stairs on wires, when he's flying, you don't think twice about it. When he's grinning at me licentiously, he means it. Acting with him is a dream. All you have to do is look into his eyes and tell the truth."
I want you to squeeze and squeeze and squeeze!
And to think, if producer Dino De Laurentiis had his way, the role would have gone to hulking actor Paul Smith, who wound up playing Beast Raban in the movie.
They wanted me to do the Baron, and they said, "But we'd like you to put on 100 pounds." And I said to myself, I ain't gonna do that, because as big as I am, another 100 pounds will put me in a box.
Dune made an impression on me in 1984, when I was 9 years old. I might not have been who it was intended for, but I was who it won over. What set it apart from the rest of my culture diet back in the day was how dissimilar it was to Stars, Trek, and Wars, even though it was about spaceships, planets, and aliens. McMillan's Baron Harkonnen was something else, a scary wild card those other movies didn't possess. This man was unsafe, gross, and fully lived in. And to be honest, the Baron of the novel kind of lives in McMillan's shadow. Post-1984, the rest of Ken McMillan's CV looks tame. There are fewer worlds left to conquer. He did nice work in Andrei Konchalovsky's memorable Runaway Train as the rail manager McDonald, cold sweating his way through staying one step ahead of the killer transit.
Don't tell anyone about the runaway. We don't want to panic the passengers. Besides, we got the company's reputation to uphold.
He was also cast in his biggest comedy role to date in the Levy Candy vehicle Armed and Dangerous as Meg Ryan's dad, playing dour straight man to the two Canadian pros.
Raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I. State your name.
State your name.
Hell, I even watched a latter episode of Magnum P.I. in which McMillan played a garbage truck mogul from New York who comes to Hawaii to do some business. It's a fun but hammy performance, not quite up to his high benchmarks.
I'm in garbage. Because nowadays everybody wants to call it waste management. But it's garbage. Plain and simple.
McMillan's last role on film is in the totally forgettable Nick Nolte, Martin Short cops and robbers comedy, Three Fugitives. It was released posthumously, and McMillan looks to be suffering the ill effects of the liver disease which eventually killed him. It is a warm role, however. He got to play a dippy veterinarian who keeps mistaking Nolte for a dog.
Can you just take out a bullet and bandage the wound?
Bullets? Why? Who shot him? Poor little doggy.
He died in Santa Monica on January 8, 1989. He was survived by his wife Catherine McDonald, whom he met doing New York theater in the 60s, and a daughter named Allison. Ken McMillan might be the definition of a character actor, but he was protean in a way he didn't often get to show. From his early stage roles for David Mamet and Mike Nichols all the way through to working in TV and film, McMillan was happy to do whatever was asked of him. Joseph Papp, founder of the Public Theater and Shakespeare in the Park, said of his friend, "His tough looks belied the underlying humanity he brought to all his acting. The contrast between Ken's demeanor and his gentle performances was a contradiction that was always present in his acting and always surprising. It's amazing how he can make audiences feel for him." Maybe I'll let McMillan himself get the last word in about his career. In a rare interview with the Chicago Tribune in '85, he talked about viewing a young couple walking down a city street from the backseat of a car. He said, "I'm in the cab and I'm thinking, now that's real. And I'm on my way to some theater to be somebody else, to do something else. And then I'm thinking, it's okay. I want to do this. I want to be an actor more than anything else in the world."
Full moon, now I'm no longer alone, without a dream in my heart, without a love of my own.
The finest in men's neckwear since 1982.